We're grateful for all those people that volunteer their time, their money, and other resources in order to provide for the needs of people in our community. We are truly blessed to live in a community that cares about each other and puts forth what is needed when people express that. We hope that we can be a part of that as a council, and we thank you for this opportunity to serve. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, Diane. Appreciate that. Let the minutes reflect Councilman Gross is not here tonight. He did get a hold of me and has an excused absence. Let the minutes also reflect we're being joined virtually by our city attorney, Scott Reist.
Got it,
So,
thanks.
all right, so let's start with the approval of the minutes from the September 30th meeting. Those were presented in your board pack. Are there any corrections, or are they to be approved as presented?
I would move to approve the minutes as presented.
Okay, motion by Cindy. Is there a second?
I would second it.
All right, second by Jack. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passed 6-0. Welcome to our visitors tonight. We are joined by James Veeder, a sixth grader at Lakeland Christian. He's here wanting to observe a council meeting. I think, Josh, he got a hold of you, and thank you for inviting him. And as I told him, you're always welcome here, and you can also watch tonight when you get home on the city website. All right. So as far as reports, oral and written communications, Lynn's presented the September fund report. I don't believe there's anything worthy of her discussion. Do you all have any questions? All right. So let's move into unfinished business. Tonight is the second and final reading. Actually, it's kind of a third reading, but the first reading was just an introduction, and that was back on September 7th. And on the 20th, we actually did the first reading with the public hearing and approved the budget on that first reading. So tonight will be the final reading and the final vote. And then, as we've talked in the past, certainly we will have the opportunity to react and make cuts when that 1782 notice is presented. Typically that's sometime in December, but we'll see how things go that way. I know we talked last time, and just as a reminder, using the current budget with the full assessed value yields as presented $1.32, 132.85 per 100. We did see an AV increase of $36.6 million, which put some downward pressure on that rate, about a 3.5%. Our health insurance renewal came back at a minus 6.2%, which will, having budgeted for 12% increase, should give us some significant room to make some line one cuts when that becomes necessary. We do have an increase in circuit breaker losses. Wasn't a lot, but it continues to go the other way. So I think last time I'd mentioned that our current budget is advertised is certainly over the levy, and we'll have to sit down and look at that when the final numbers come back, as is the fire territory budget. So I know we'll be soliciting line 2 cuts, which are any funds available for this year that can be reduce our spending for this year, which will help increase the reserves, and then we'll solicit line 1 cuts before we get the 1782 notice, so that we've got an idea of how the department heads are going to prioritize their spending. So we're looking at somewhere, our levy growth was about a 4.3% increase, and that's certainly given our growth, important that we fold that into the budget as well. So we're probably looking at somewhere in the low to maybe $1.23, somewhere 23, 24, somewhere in there, which is still very close, actually a little below the 2016 rate. So our rates are still well down from what they were even 5 years ago. But we can't ignore that inflation, and we're obviously given that opportunity by the state giving us that levy growth of 4.3%. And we should also see some moderate increases in population-based revenue streams when the 2020 census numbers are announced. And I do have, we're going to talk about that tonight. I got the numbers last, I think, Thursday. So I prepared just a short presentation and get a chance to see that. But that does indeed impact and will impact for the next 10 years. Those numbers will, it'll be based on a per capita using the new numbers. So I know Cindy polished up some of the numbers on the non-for-profits, and I know she's gotten those out to you. They're a little below the max. I think there's a little cushion there that what I told her today is we just leave that cap, that high number, the max number in there. And again, that gives us a little breathing room. And then if we do end up making a cut, there's another spot we can make I think it's about a $7,000 cut. So, I'll open it up to the council and would like a motion on ordinance 2021-1001 for the 2022 appropriations and tax rates. But again, obviously, after you've had a chance to vet your questions or concerns.
One comment, too, I would make about the nonprofit funding request. Obviously, we could not fund everyone the total amount that they requested, but we do have some of the ARPA money that we possibly can help perhaps bringing up the gap in some of those, and we're going to be kind of working with the county. They have an application and everything, and we thought we would work with them so that we're not duplicating our efforts, and that will be coming in the very near future. So,
yeah, I wanted to thank you, Cindy, for reminding us. I want to get through that. We're looking at getting our final numbers together on our replacement revenue, so we know what of that 3.4 million, what buckets are remaining for that, and we're getting close to that. As Cindy mentioned, the county has their own form for those non-for-profits and individuals and businesses that request funds for impacts from COVID. And again, we're going to take a look at that. I think what we're going to do is we're going to sit down probably with the council, get a group of a small committee, probably of 3 from the council, and kind of talk about where we are. The money's been allocated for next year, so we need to sit down and develop a plan, but I think we're a lot closer to being able to do that now, knowing our revenue numbers and having some ideas of, getting your ideas. I'm also meeting with some members of the community to look at potential collaboration if there are projects that may be beneficial for our community with all of us jumping in on. So there's still some information to be gathered, but I think we're getting closer to having a chance to sit down with the council and kind of help us give us a direction on some of those funds. So lots happened. I know there's reporting requirements. I know Lynn and her group, her office are going to have to maintain that, and they're going to be pretty diligent on the Department of Treasury guidelines, and obviously we're going to have to follow that. And I think the one thing I liked about the county's form is that it specifically asked individuals to designate where the Department of Treasury guidance fit their request. So I like their form.
It sounds like it mirrors our nonprofit form where we ask them to, specify where within the law
Yeah.
they can
It's
do
just
that.
a little different from a reporting standpoint. It's got to fit the requirements of Department of Treasury, so, thank you. Other questions or comments?
I'll make a motion that we pass ordinance number 2021-1001.
All right, motion's been made by Diane. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, second by Cindy. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, ordinance 2021-10-1 passes on second and final reading. So that 2022 appropriations and tax rate are set, at least preliminarily. All right. I think this might be a good time. I didn't get it on the agenda, but I want to just give you a quick update on our census numbers. So if you'll indulge me for a second. Let's see. Here we go. So I just put together a few numbers that I took from the data.census.gov. This information was made available last week in a pretty easy format. And I'll just go down, and I just really want to look at the population changes in the country, the state, the county, and then the city, just to give you an idea of where we stand. So let's start with the total population. And again, we're comparing 2010 census with the new 2020 census. So the 2010 total population in the United States was 308,745,538. And I think there's one added every 9 seconds if I remember. So this, I'm sure, is not accurate yet. Well, no, this is 2010. So actually, here's 2022. It's gone up to 331,449,281 as of the day the census was released. So 331 million, 449,281. So that represents, the total population in the United States represents a 7.3% increase. Okay. So let's go to the state of Indiana. The 2010 population was 6,483,802. So again, of the total state or the 331 million in the country, and 6 million of that is in Indiana. 2010, 6,483,802. The 2020 population was 6.785,528. So 6,785,528, which shows an increase of 4.6%. Okay? And as you know from the apportionment, we did not lose any representation in DC, and that shows on the strength of this. So again, just quickly looking back, the 7.3% in the country and 4.6 in Indiana. So looking at Kosciuszko County, the 2010 total population from the census was 77,358, and the 2020 population is 80,240. So that gives a gain of 2,882 folks in the county, which is a 3.7% increase. Okay? In City of Warsaw, our population in 2010, the total population was 13,559, and the 2020 population figure is 15,804. And that's a gain of 2,245 new residents, again, as opposed to the 2,882 gain in the county. Again, 2,245 were in the city population, which is a 16.6% increase. So a pretty significant increase in the City of Warsaw population. The demographics, I didn't get into that. There's a lot of information. There's demographic information. There's housing data. There's median income data. There's a lot to dissect. And my purpose tonight was just to give you an idea of where we've gone in the last 10 years. We've talked about our assessed value increasing from our growth. And I think the opportunity we've created here in the community is borne out by an increase in our population. So what this does, and this is just the immediate impact, our CCI, which is cigarette tax money, MVH, which is road money, and the Alcohol and Beverage Commission gallonage tax, those things are all per capita taxes that will be increased 16.6%. So not much else to dive into here other than just to kind of get that general flavor for where we stand as a community and as a county and as a state and as a country. So there you go.
Mayor, could you repeat or show again the website? Like, I should have written it down the first time and didn't.
Yes, it's data.census.gov.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, again, that will address, I would assume that our revenues next year would be, and those, at least those three taxes would increase based on our population. But I don't know the details and when that takes effect. I don't know if we're getting numbers still based on the old 2010 census, but the numbers are, because they're official now, I would assume they start next year. But Lynn will keep an eye on that, I'm sure, right, Lynn?
An eagle eye.
So, okay, so that's that. Let's go to new business. There is a transfer resolution here. And let's see. Oh, Justin, you want to come up and give us the backstory on Resolution 2021-1001?
Yeah, so before you today, we have a transfer resolution. The need for this transfer resolution arose from one of our vehicles needing to be retired for a safety concern. We had a 2005 Chevy Envoy that the building inspector was using. The city mechanic advised us that it wasn't safe to drive anymore. So we wanted to transfer some funds to get a new vehicle this year so that they have a safe vehicle to drive and do their inspections. So we just wanted to add this to the account where we can purchase a vehicle from. So that's the reason behind that. If anyone has any specific questions on the transfer, please let me know. This transfer resolution involves $20,000.
So essentially, it's taking it from the 300s and pushing it to the 400s.
Correct. So in that 300s, we have a professional services account, we have a communication and travel account, and we have some subscription and dues accounts, and those typically cover APA subscriptions and those things. They had a little bit of cushion in there, which enabled us to transfer those to the 400s.
Questions?
So is 20,000 going to cover the cost of the car, or you're just putting 20,000 in and then?
We're going to add that 20,000 to some other funds in the 400s to cover that cost. So it'll cover about half of that.
Okay.
Further questions?
So is the plan to get a new vehicle or?
We're looking at a Dodge Ram that it's a 2019, so it's got a few miles on it, but it's very low mileage. We don't put a lot of miles on our vehicles either. The idea behind getting a truck, which was very comparable to the SUV Jeeps that we typically use in the planning department, the building inspector goes onto sites that are under construction. They got to drive through mud and muck sometimes, so they needed something that was a little bit higher off the ground to clear some of that construction debris. So that's at least the vehicle that we're looking at. Nothing set in stone right now, but we had the mechanic look it over and make sure everything was perfectly running fine, and he was really happy with it. So that's the vehicle we've been looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it was around $38,000 for that.
I would move to approve Resolution 2021-10-01.
Motion made by Cindy. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mike. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Transfer resolution passes, 2021-1001 passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Justin. And the second item is a transfer proposal from the wastewater utility, but Stormwater Project, the McKinley Street storm sewer improvements. Need some money moved there. Ryan?
Yes. Ryan gave you a little memo about it, but basically we're wanting to transfer funds from CCD supplies and professional services and repairs and maintenance all into the capital improvements for the McKinley Stormwater Project. This project we've been working with Town of Winona Lake and where they're putting the roundabout in. We have a 36-inch storm line that we need to relocate, and right where the roundabout is a perfect spot for it. So we need to get this in prior to the roundabout, or at some point we'd have to tear up the new roundabout to put the storm pipe in. Currently, the discharge pipe runs within a couple feet of the foundation of the condominiums out there. So it's just reducing the city's liability. If our pipe fails, we don't want to damage that foundation to those condominiums. The prices are coming in very high, so we're sort of scaling back the projects we're able to do this year. We've got 2 projects we're really trying to push into 21 yet, and this is one of them. I think the engineered estimate was about $451,000, and it came in at $678,000. And the other project we bid was almost double the engineer estimate also. So it's mainly materials, pipes getting incredibly hard to get. There's a 6 to 8 month wait on it, and you're going to pay whatever price they're charging at the time. So.
Yeah, it's kind of perfect storm. It's a reality of a current supply chain issue and wage inflation, and as far as labor costs, and the fact that with more government money being made available for projects, there are probably not enough contractors to go around and get these projects done. So I think this is going to be the norm as we move forward, unfortunately. So in this case, I'm going to move a little money around to get that taken care of. I would also add, and Brian, you can jump in here, but it's my understanding they're also going to create a grit separator on this pipe to help keep some of the grit out of the lake and some of the pollution. So there's a couple good things from this specific project. Right? I don't know if you want.
Yes, there's going to be a water quality feature there. We've worked with the Town of Winona Lake. They acquired that property where I believe it was Collier's fireplace that sat right there on the corner. The Town of Winona acquired that. They've allowed us, we're going to put in a grit separator in that area. It's not large enough to handle the big rains, but it's going to handle the high percentage rains that we get. So it will help reduce the amount of contaminants going into Winona Lake. So that is a big perk to this project, along with the relocation.
So again, this is basically a transfer. It's like from supplies, from 200s to 400s, from 310 and 360 into the 444. So all going into capital improvements.
There's no amount here. Do we know?
The total's $93,456.
Is it, I haven't scrolled down far enough. There we go. All right, I was just looking at the resolution. Thank you. Okay. And I was going to add too that the longer you wait, the more expensive projects are going to become.
Yeah, I said in a clearly Clean Water Kosciuszko meeting last week where we reviewed this and are very excited about the grid separator and moving it over to come out into the lake at a better place. And that's a lot of stormwater that comes down from that area. So it's a high load area. So it'll be better overall just for the lake and everything to move that. So I'd make a motion that we pass Resolution 2021-1002.
Motion made by Dan. Is there a second?
I'd second it.
second by Jerry. Any further discussion? Questions, Brian? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, resolution 2021-1002 passes 6-0.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Brian. All right, so James has asked for the microphone under the visitors' questions and comments, and I think he's got a few questions that you want to approach the microphone, and you can give us a little history of yourself, and then you can ask your questions. You can give us a little history of yourself, where you go to school, your teacher, your grade, whatever you want to say.
My name is James Feeder. I go to Lakeland Christian Academy, and my teacher currently is Mrs. Rossworm.
Sorry, James, I put you on the spot a little bit. I'm glad your questions are written down.
I had to write them down or else I would forget them. Which almost happens to me all the time.
Well, me too.
Okay, actually, this was for you,
Okay.
Mayor. I'm wondering, when will the bronze statues be back?
The bronze statues. So actually, we've got a Warsaw Public Arts Commission, and we actually at our last meeting had a discussion of bringing back a temporary exhibit. I don't know if it'll be next summer, but there's a possibility it could be. I'm sure you're referring to the statues of the lifelike humans that were scattered. I think we had anywhere from about 15 to 20 of them. We've had 2 exhibits, and they were very well received, and we're looking at potentially doing the same artist, or potentially looking to see if there's others that are available. But I know a lot of folks are asking the same question, so that's a good question, and I'll say that the Public Arts Commission, Warsaw Public Arts Commission, has taken a look at that.
Okay. Question 2. Are there Christians in charge of Warsaw government?
I would say that there are people of faith in charge of Warsaw government. I think the specific religions are all up to each and every one of us. And but I know from my standpoint, it appears that there are people of faith. And when you say in charge of, I would assume you mean elected officials. There's certainly no specific requirement when someone signs up to run for office that they denote their religion, but I think we all feel a sense of faith when we try and do our job.
Okay. I work at the Warsaw Public Library as a volunteer, so this just came into my mind. What other city programs are there available for kids?
For kids. Who wants to answer that one? I'm taking all the hard questions. No, I know we have a lot of parks programs. Diane, you want to talk about some of the parks and recreation programs for kids that are available? Diane's on our, Councilor Quantz is on our parks board, and she's been on for some time, and I'm sure she's got a good answer.
One of the things that we try to do is offer programs at either zero cost to families or a very low cost to make them affordable. And we always have help available if there's someone that wants to take advantage of a program. So we range, I volunteer with the preschool program, so we have a preschool program for parents that would not otherwise be able to have their kids go to preschool, so they can learn some of those basic skills. We start down there, we go, in the summer there's a lot of nature type programs and little mini camps and things like that kids can be involved in. We have the skate park for older students that want to participate in something like that. We help with the Young Tigers football, providing the field for that and the maintenance for that. And then if you've gone around the parks, you'll notice, that a couple of them are on lakes. So we have a couple parks on Pike Lake, we have a park on Center Lake. And one of the things we're looking at is making that more accessible to youth so that they can use it. So we're going to actually have coming up kayak and paddleboard rentals, where you can actually put your little card in and rent like a kayak for an hour or two. So that'll be available like at all different times of the day, not just when somebody's there to take, your money and hand out the paddles, but they'll actually be available. So that's an exciting thing that we're looking forward to. The other thing that we do a lot, Mr. Davidson was just talking about the stormwater component of our city, and we have a stormwater tax that people pay because everybody has water running down into drains that run directly into our lakes. Eventually here we can see it. In some other towns you can't see it so clearly as to where our stormwater ends up. But we provide some educational programming, and the Lilly Center for Lakes and Streams actually conducts a lot of that programming for us. So that's another area where I volunteer, but we start teaching students as young as kindergarten and going all the way up to 6th grade. We have some really specific programs to teach people good environmental citizenship and things like that. So I don't know if Lakeland has participated a lot in that. I think you've come to the fishing day that we've had out at the park before. The 4th graders usually come over and do that, and some other days like that. And then the mayor himself has a mayor's youth council, and they work on different projects every year, and plus give us advice so we know what kids are thinking and what they want and what's important to them, what they'd like to see in our city. And just recently they sponsored one of the murals down the street here on the side of the building. I think they'd like to do a rooftop garden, so they're maybe trying to find a place for that. And they've just found different types of projects around the town that they can be involved in.
We support Little League. One of the non-for-profits that requested funds tonight were from the Warsaw Little League. I know Cindy has worked with them. I know Councilman Finch is on the CCAC board, and there are a lot of programs out there for kids. So we're either directly or indirectly involved in a lot of recreational activities in the parks and ball fields in the community. So good question.
Mr. Mayor, one of the gems, I think, within our city that often gets overlooked within the Parks Department is Higher Park and the BMX track.
Yes.
I was just informed here in the last month that it is such a nice track that a lot of your national riders that are in competition that maybe live in Indianapolis come up here every week to practice. So I think that's a pretty good program as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You've still got the microphone. Any other questions?
No.
Well, thank you for coming. I sure appreciate it. And Josh, thanks for inviting James, and hope to see you back.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Any other comments, questions? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Thank you.
Bye, Scott.
You guys have something to sign tonight, so don't run away.
Oh my gosh. Oh, good. Run away.